Hello beer tubers and welcome to yet another Barley Wember themed beer review with me, Peter, the master of hops. Today drinking some more barley wine. Because Barley Wember is a thing here in Denmark with a hashtag started by Danish beer bloggers to put emphasis on this awesome style. And it's worked. A lot of people are doing barley wines now, especially for the occasion. A lot of brewers, of course, also made it before that. But it's kind of like to just have some media focus on the style. And we're cracking something really cool from the cellar. I talked about cracking vintage stuff from the cellar, and we're doing that. We're cracking a fairly old bottle that I got from Jay over in the UK. So thanks a ton to Jay and Linda. I think it was mainly Jay sending the package, but thanks a ton to you guys anyways. They've been following the channel for a very long time. We've met a few times as well at MVCC. We actually met, this year at the MVCC. So I can't remember if I actually got this on MVCC or I was sent this, but that doesn't matter. But this is a bottle of some really old school stuff. This is from Old Chimneys Brewery, and this is the Red Admiral. And this is not just any old bottle of Red Admiral. This is the original 2017 release. And this was a release to mark the 40th anniversary of brewer Alan Thompson, who is the head brewer behind Old Chimneys Brewery. So Alan Thompson's been in the UK beer industry for 40 years. He started Old Chimneys Brewery in 1995, and it's well known for being one of the Rate Beer top 10 breweries and being on the Rate Beer top 10s as well for Imperial Stout with their Good King Henry Special Reserve, which I reviewed back in the day. One of the original batches brewed by Alan at the original location, which gave a 95. I loved it. It's still brewed now these days, and I'm not sure if all of their beers are still brewed, but some of them are at least brewed under contract, so it still exists. But as far as I could gather right now, Alan Thompson is doing like consultancy work in the beer industry in the UK. One of the big things he was known for was Good King Henry, which was amazing, and then also making a lot of other classic English beer. And as some of you guys know, English beer is very near and dear to my heart. It's what got me into beer. It was the bitters, the ESBs, all that stuff. English, Russian Imperial Stouts, and all these kind of awesome beers. And I've really had an affinity for wanting to revisit these. And I'm lucky enough to have a cask bar locally in the city, but the selection is not as good as it once was. But yeah, this is a 2017 bottle, as I said, of Red Admiral that Jay sent me from his own personal stash. So thanks a ton, man. This is an 11.4% English style barley wine that's aged on oak and brewed with Scotch whiskey liqueur. So it's a little bit different than the modern approach to these kind of beers, where you do aging in barrels instead. So yeah, this will be really fun. Bottle number 380 of, it says 146. No, bottle number 146 of 380 bottles. That is a small batch of beer. 275 milliliter bottle as well. I'm looking forward to be trying this. Bottle conditioned beer as well. That's also like one of the classic English methods, like bottle conditioning your ales. And then contains live yeast, stored below 13 degrees Celsius to avoid overcarbonation. I remember that back in the day, getting bottle conditioned ale vintage beers from Harvey's, for example. Their Prince of Denmark or Christmas ale and whatever, because we sold them in a local bottle store where I was working as a kind of clerk or whatever it's called. Actually a volunteer, but all the people working there were volunteers because it's a hobby business. Before craft beer was what it is today. But yeah, I remember we had like loads of these vintage beers from Harvey's, and as soon as you popped the bottle, it was like poof, it gushed everywhere. But it wasn't sour, which was interesting, and I wonder why. I actually don't know. But this one did not gush; it poured out quite nicely. So let's check it out. So pours a nice mahogany brown color in the glass, really dark barley wine. Not a lot of head, but it's also a 6-year-old bottle. So some CO2 is bound to have escaped. You know, although there's a cap on a beer, often with a beer that's aged for a long time, you will lose some CO2 as well. But it looks like this is in good condition. It does. And the head that is there is beige, very gentle carbonation, almost looks like cask ale with the low CO2 levels. Let's check out the aroma on Red Admiral, the original batch from 2017, marking the 40 years of Alan Thompson's brewing career. It smells quintessentially English, and it smells so much more English than the modern interpretation of English barley wine. There is loads of yeast character, first and foremost. Loads of like esters, currants, dates, figs, red currant, black currant. There's a bit of cola bean kind of in there as well. And the Scotch whiskey liqueur is there too, and there's for sure oxidation as well. I'm getting sherry, I'm getting port, and also a little bit of like Marmite or something. There's like a savory kind of dead yeast nuance, which you can sometimes get, I think, with the bottle conditioned beers. Oh yeah, I'm definitely not gonna pour the rest in. It is like just sludge. I stopped pouring as soon as the beer, started changing color. You got to be careful with like really aged beer. I mean, 6 years, that's still a good amount of age. But yeah, it smells like an aged beer. There's some nuttiness in this, like toasted walnuts or something, and caramel and toffee. It smells like it's going to be somewhat rich, actually, which I didn't expect. For a more classic English barley wine, they're not often as rich as the modern interpretations. And most modern interpretations more have like big focus on malts than any kind of yeast character. But it smells good, and the oak, you can kind of smell a little bit of a drying oak, and definitely smell Scotch whiskey liqueur. There is like a nuance that reminds me of Scotch, but it smells sweet. Let's try it. Cheers. Thanks a ton, Jay. This will be fun to check out. Definitely like drinking cask. Yeah. Like, this is really old school. This is really, 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 really old school barley wine. Because it's funny, it's not too far off like a Brewed barley wine from Sweden, from Nynäshamn that I had not too long ago, a little while back, but it's definitely got some similarities to something like that. And I think this is a beer that a lot of new money beer geeks will be like, oh, what is this? But yeah, lots of stewed fruitiness, maybe even a hint of chocolate or coffee. High bitterness too, surprisingly. There's definitely a good amount of bitterness. It's I think it must have been somewhat hoppy. There's still a hop profile around, like naturally kind of hoppy flavors. The Scotch whiskey liqueur is somewhat there as well still. There's lots of drying oak on the back. Lots of caramel and toffee. It's also fairly dry. And I think that could be like both wood and alcohol. But this is like, it's not the oldest of old, English, classic English beers, but still like, it really reminds me of the kind of beers I got into. Like, it seems so classic and traditional. A little bit of a sweet honey note. The only slightly off-putting flavor is from age in this, is that like Marmite, Vegemite kind of thing, like dead yeast. Maybe not the nicest. And I think I could have maybe, if I just poured even less into the glass, we could have been without that. But yeah, otherwise like port kind of nuances as well. Sherry. And this actually is not expired yet. They give it 10 years. So best before the 28th of January 2027. It's like a little bit charry too. But it's it's very different from modern barley wines. It's not as sweet. It's more fruity. It's more yeast focused. You have all those currants, red currant, kind of black currants, or ribes. Is that what they're called in English? I'm not sure. Or in England, at least. Stewed, kind of dark fruitiness, almost like if you stewed like some kind of fruit in Scotch whiskey, or like a fruit cake stewed in Scotch whiskey. It really, really, really reminds me of something so similar to Brewed barley wine from Sweden. It's very much in that vein, which is saying something for Brewed barley wine. That means that it's really, really close to the original deal from England. But yeah, it's really fun to try this. It's thanks so much, Jay. It's really fun to try something like this. It's really like it. Every single time I revisit an English beer these days, and I revisit some classic English beer, or just modern breweries doing something classic, it's like, wow, I really want to revisit more classic English beer. I've been plowing through like a lot of awesome classic German stuff, but the scene that got me into beer was the English scene. And it would be so fun to revisit some of the beers that I've already tried from the past, or just rediscovering some of the things I tried on cask that you could only get like at the wharf. Like there's so many. The wharf used to get so many unique cask beers from different breweries from all over the UK that did not distribute beer in Denmark. You couldn't get their beer in bottles, but you could get them on cask at that local bar, uh, which was insane. Yeah, it would be fun to explore that. But I think the best way to explore it is to go to England and visit a lot of cask breweries and whatnot. I'd love to also, of course, drink some modern stuff because there's a lot of awesome modern breweries as well. But I'm really having a love kind of rekindled for classic English beer, and I'd love to try and drink some more bitters and ESBs and even just English pale ales and IPAs and golden ales and whatnot. It'd be so fun, but it's just hard pressed to find any here. I mean, I've done some revisitings, and that's been mainly Fuller's because that's and Samuel Smith's because it's the only things we've been able to get consistently. But now we can't even really get Fuller's anymore. So there you go. So back to this one. This is holding up well, but this is also in a state where you should drink it now. This is not a beer that's going to get better with age in my mind. It's of course bottle to bottle specific, but it's not going to get better, and it's just going to have more of that. I think like Marmite flavor with dead yeast. Just like it's just going to get more of that. And more oxidized and more sherry flavors. Like right now, there's still a little bit of vibrancy of esters, and there's a little bit of vibrant, kind of chewy, sweet, caramelly maltiness, but not loads. So I think it's not peak territory, this bottle. I think it's definitely slightly over the hill, but still all right. But I'm still going to go straight 90. I like this as much as the Brewed, Tawny Port, which I think is very similar. But yeah, really fun to try. Thanks a ton, Jay. Fun to dive into stuff like this. I mean, I'm never going to be trying anything from these guys again, I think, because it's this guy from Alan Thompson, because again, now it's contract based. So like this is like one of the last chances to try some of his own brewed stuff. Same goes with like the George Gale's Prize Old Ale, where I did a video way back where the last bits they had at Fuller's they used to brew a new batch of Old Ale at Manchester Marble, and they did barrel-aged versions of that, and it was so fun to try all those, because Prize Old Ale is pretty much now gone from existence. You can only learn about that beer online really, and you can be lucky to find old cork bottles or maybe capped bottles, but a lot of them are not going to be in good shape anymore. I remember the last time I tried like an 09 or 06 or whatever it was of the Price Old Ale, and it was like, oof, that was not worth drinking anymore at all. That was for the drain, but a pretty bottle to have on yourself otherwise. But yeah, this was fun. So 90 for Red Admiral from 2017 from Old Chimneys. Really, really fun to try this. Sorry for the long ranting video and talking and nostalgic and all this, but this was fun. Thanks, Jay. And yeah, if you guys had this one, let me know what you thought of it. As always, comment, subscribe, check the Facebook fan page, and Twitter and Instagram. Give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Ring the bell for future notifications about videos. And I'm going to say cheers and see you guys in another beer review for Barley Wember.